Dear listener, thank you for joining me for this presentation with audio on the Leader Programme and Leader Funding, prepared by Michael Kenny and Siobhan Kinahan. Michael Kenny, Maynooth University, Siobhan Kinahan, Irish Rural Link. This presentation is meant as an introduction to Leader and to give you a general overview of its funding. There is a follow-on presentation, Unit 1B, which goes into much more detail on the step-by-step process for attaining Leader funding. I hope you find this useful. So there will be approximately 20 slides to the end of this presentation. It will take you about 15 minutes to go through this, and it will benefit you in learning about Leader and about the funding that's available through Leader. As you will see in this slide, in case you're watching this without audio, there are embedded sound files in this presentation. You will need earphones or speakers to access the sound. So let us look at what Leader is. It was established by the European Commission in 1991. In Ireland, the current programme runs until 2020. Leader was put in place to address rural decline, particularly with the quota system on production. It meant that rural communities, and particularly farming-linked rural communities, were capped in terms of how they could develop economically with knock-on effects for social development. So the Leader programme was put in place. Leader uses a community-led local development approach. So it seeks to provide funding into rural businesses and communities through a programme that is prepared jointly with the national government, that is the Irish government. The priority of Leader is to promote social inclusion, poverty reduction, and economic development in rural areas. It is important to understand the structure of Leader and how it operates. Local action groups, or LAGs, have overall responsibility for the delivery of Leader funding in any area. The local action groups are basically a board of community activists and local development actors who work together under a governance structure to manage the funds made available through the National Leader Programme. Each local action group will have an evaluation committee or committees. This will comprise individuals who have expertise in various sectors that are relevant to the Leader programme. And you will see the various sectors described in the Leader programme. In the case of Ireland, 2014 to 2020. You will be able to access this freely through the internet or from your local Department of Rural Development Office. So the evaluation committees are the experts who review any applications on behalf of the local action group, and it is the local action group who has the governance responsibility in terms of deciding which applications are ultimately funded. In each case, there is a lead implementing partner. That may be a standalone company, generally called the local partnership company or the local leader company. Usually there is one in each county. In some cases there is more than one, so there will be ones for different areas. and in very few cases there are ones which cover areas that are greater than one county. In more recent times, the lead implementing agency, that is, that leader company, is also linked to the local authority or county council. There is also a lead financial partner, which is the government department designated to administer the funds to the local action groups, and they are ultimately responsible to the European Commission for the oversight and spending of those funds. So it's important to understand that this is the structure that LEADER works through. The lead implementing partner works with the applicants. So you will make your application, if you're interested, to the lead implementing partner in your area or county. So you will need to consult your local authority or directly to the partner to discuss the preparation of an application and its submission. The lead financial partner administers the payments of grants to the various beneficiaries. It may be a delegated function, but ultimately the Department of Agriculture and Food is responsible to the European Commission. Let's look at the various themes and sub-themes that are supported by the LEADER programme. Theme 1 is economic development, with enterprise development and job creation. In this section, the sub-themes are rural tourism, enterprise development, rural towns, and broadband. Theme 2 under the LEADER programme is social inclusion. So these will be basic services targeted at hard-to-reach communities and groups. Rural youth and other marginalised and disadvantaged communities. Theme 3 is rural environment. And this will be, the sub-themes here are protection and sustainable use of water resources, protection and improvement of local biodiversity, and the development of rural renewable energy. It is important to point out that there is a willingness to support and consider projects that are cross-cutting the various themes. So there may be a project proposal that is focused on an environmental issue, but also affects climate change and innovation. This will have an impact on enterprise development, which is a different theme, Theme 1, and also on providing basic services to hard-to-reach communities, which is Theme 2. So it is welcomed if the application crosses various themes. It is important for any individual or group intending to make a submission to LEADER to understand and be familiar with the local development strategy, because all funding decisions taken by the LAGs are underpinned by the objectives and priorities of that area's local development strategy, which you will access through your local authority. Ideally, the local development strategy is developed in consultation with communities in the various areas, but often people are not aware of it. This local development strategy will determine the needs of the local area, and the LAG therefore will make decisions on funding various applications based on what this local development strategy prioritizes. So it is important for anyone considering utilizing LEADER funds to go through this local development strategy in detail. So who is eligible? You will see from this slide the projects that are eligible and who is eligible. The projects are any application that links to the leader teams and sub-teams, even if they are cross-cutting. The second thing, as we have spoken about earlier, it must be in line with the local development strategy of that area. It is very important that the applicant is aware of the teams, sub-teams and the local development strategy. Otherwise, applicants express frustration that their projects were not supported, but they may not be aware of the various requirements of the themes and the local development strategy. I've listed here some of the types of assistance available. You will see there just 5. It's a summary. I've also presented who is eligible. Firstly, the applicant must be from the area, living in the area. And it is any rural business or local community organisation. So it can be a sole trader, farmer, community and voluntary group, companies, trusts, partnerships, limited companies, private individuals. But the question is, are they within the themes of LEADER and are they within the local development strategy? It's not difficult to consider what are the ineligible activities, and there are many. The applicant must be aware, as I say, of the themes and the local development strategy. And arising, there are a range of sectors and activities that are not eligible for LEADER support. I have listed some of them here, and you will get much more detail on these if you talk to the local implementing agency. The rates of funding for LEADER programs is also predetermined. It is part of the LEADER program. It is set out in detail. This table gives you a summary of the maximum funding and the levels of funding that are available within the current program. This will change when programs change. It is also important to realize that funding is provided post expenditure. So groups and individuals applying for funding have to spend and account for the money before they actually receive their funding. We're going to go step by step through the LEADER application process here. You will see in this graph that it is a cyclical process. It goes through a number of steps, approximately 12 steps listed here in 4 different sections. Stage 1 will be the expression of interest. It is a call for proposals. There will be a time when the implementing agency will make a call for proposals. It will be a time limited and targeted call. It is also competitive because there may be more applications than there is funding available. However, there may also be rolling calls or rolling applications. This means that there are opportunities to apply for funding on a rolling basis. These will be outside of the targeted calls, and you need to talk to the local implementing agency or the LAG to find out details of this. An expression of interest must be completed for each project to check its eligibility to move on to stage 2, which is the application stage. So basically what this is saying is it is important to get in touch with the implementing agency or the LAG to talk to them to to complete the expression of interest before you move on to begin preparing the application. The application process is long and challenging, so it is important to talk to the agency in advance, or else a lot of time can be wasted. Stage 2 is the application. So if your project is deemed eligible, you'll then be invited to move on to the application stage. And that is important because preparing the application without having gone through the stage 1 is really not a good use of time. So you will receive an application form and guidance notes. When you have the application completed, you will submit it. But in that process, you will also receive advice, support, and mentorship from the implementing agency. This is very important because the implementing agency is on your side. It does not wish to waste its time or your time. It does not wish to waste its resources or your resources. So it is important to work in partnership with the implementing agency. However, even when that is all done, no applicant is guaranteed approval, because it really comes to the independent oversight of the evaluation committee and the local action group. It is a competitive process. Stage 3 is the evaluation. We've already mentioned the evaluation committees. So projects are assessed by an independent evaluation committee. This is made up of individuals who have expertise in various sectors relevant to the LEADER program. So the evaluation committee will look at the application. They may ask the mentor from the implementing agency to return to the applicant for further details or for refinement of the application. So this process may take some time. And when the evaluation committee is completed, it makes recommendations to the local action group board. The recommendation may be for acceptance or indeed may be for rejection. In this slide, I'm presenting to you 12 evaluation criteria that are used across the board. However, there may be specific evaluation criteria applying to various themes and project areas. But evaluation criteria such as eligibility, innovation, deadweight, displacement, skills, research, marketing, viability, sustainability, job creation, benefits, and added value are standard criteria applied to LEADER applications. Your mentor from the implementation agency will help you in working your way through these various criteria. The evaluation committee will apply these criteria when they look at the various applications, and it is on the basis of how well the application meets the required criteria that will determine whether they will recommend approval or rejection of the application to the local action group. Stage 4 is the decision. If an applicant has arrived at the decision stage, they have already put in a lot of work, a lot of time, and in some cases a lot of resources. So to arrive at this stage is a great achievement. However, it does not guarantee funding. If a project is approved, a letter of offer will be issued. And importantly, it is very important that applicants realize that a project can only commence when a letter of offer and contract has been sent and accepted in writing by the applicant. Any work or expenditure incurred prior to that is not eligible to be included in funding, and this has caught a number of people off guard. This is very important. It is the way that this particular program works. It's important also to realize that in a case where a decision is made to reject a project that's made by the local action group board, the applicant has the right of appeal. There is a process for doing this, and it is laid out in the guidelines. So that brings us through to the end of this presentation 1A. I suggest it might be helpful for you to go to presentation 1B, because this addresses the application process in much more detail, taking you through the process in more detailed steps. This presentation was prepared by Michael Kenny from Maynooth University and Siobhan Kinahan, who is a researcher and principal investigator for the Micro Erasmus project with Irish Rural Link, based in Moate, County Westmeath. I hope you found this content useful. Thank you for listening.